In his first series as executive producer, Russell T Davies set down a template that most series, and indeed most showrunners, would follow. An adventure in Earth's present, an adventure in the future, and an adventure in the past. And for his second episode, Russell T Davies chose the future. Hello dear viewers, this is it. Welcome to the end of the world. There was an unofficial subtitle for this series, Adventures in the Human Race. Russell T Davies firmly believed that as soon as you started introducing aliens with no connection to Earth, it was harder to keep the audience interested. The example he used were, if the Zog people on the planet Zog are being threatened by the Zog monster, who cares? But if there's a human colony on the planet Zog being threatened by the Zog master, suddenly you're interested. Another reason, of course, was budgetary. And The End of the World has a big statement to say about budget. When I first saw Platform 1, that beautiful shot of it hanging above the Earth, I gasped in 2005. This was the moment I'd been waiting for in Doctor Who, when it looked as good as modern-day Star Trek. I sometimes think that old Doctor Who looked a bit better than 1960s Star Trek, but that's for another video entirely. That shot is a statement piece for the show. It is saying we are here, we are serious, this is science fiction, this is drama, and this deserves to be prime time, weekend viewing for the whole family. Absolutely love that shot. Now, what about the story itself? This is a whodunit. The whodunit is kept very simple because we're still getting to know the Doctor and Rose. There are several scenes where they're sort of feeling out their relationship, if you like. Even that first scene in the TARDIS where he's desperately trying to impress her. He takes her right to the end of the world. And as we crash into the titles, we get Billie Piper's face and her character's reaction to this. Billie Piper continues to impress me in this episode, particularly a scene which was a late addition, the scene where she's chatting to Ruffalo, the plumber, the maintenance engineer, and she suddenly realises that she's gotten into a ship with a complete stranger just to go on a joyride around the universe, and we do get that confrontation between the Doctor and Rose where he's not really telling her anything, he's just showing off. He doesn't tell her immediately what she wants to know, but there's sort of an acknowledgement between them that there needs to be a greater sense of equality in their relationship, and we do get that at the end of the episode when the Doctor tells Rose what happened to his people and his planet. It's curious then that the Doctor chooses to take Rose to see the same moment that has traumatised him so much. But I don't think that's an active thought in the Doctor's head when he takes her there. It's a matter of he thinks, okay, she's not impressed, what is the thing I can show her that will totally blow her mind? In terms of classic connections, we do have the end of the Earth also being seen in The Ark in 1966, and we have plant-based creatures in Jabe and the people from the Forest of Cheam, tree people. And back in the classic series we had lush, aggressive vegetation on the planet Tigella. We had Meglos, the talking, maniacal, shape-shifting cactus. We had the Crinoids, which were a naturally occurring plant race, but we also had the Vervoids, which had been created by humans in order to be servants. Why give them the sting? Sting doesn't make sense. Oh, and another classic connection that I thought we had in this in 2005, I thought the adherents of the repeated meme would be Cybermen. I thought they'd be revealed to be that. At the time, I didn't really know what a meme was. I knew it was a type of communication, but I didn't know that calling them the adherents of the repeated meme was a clue. Not only that, they work in the memes of death. They've got the long black robes, they've got the deep, gravelly voice, and they deliver death. They deliver the spiders, which kills the steward and poor Ruffalo, and causes so much mayhem aboard, but they are being controlled by the villain, Lady Cassandra O'Brien. Delta 17. played brilliantly by Zoe Wanamaker, and some amazing CG work. Now, in this episode, there's something like less than 4 minutes of Cassandra's face on screen. Euros Lyn, the director, who gets the series immediately and will be one of the most prolific directors in the Russell T Davies era, he directs these scenes so well that you don't feel like Cassandra is being hidden, even while we're following other characters while she's talking. I think, again, that comes down to the performances, especially Christopher Eccleston, Billie Piper, and Yasmin Bannerman, who plays Jabe. Their reactions are so strong that we don't realise that we're not seeing Cassandra. While Zoe Wanamaker gets top guest billing, really our main guest character is Jabe. Jabe provides a great foil to Christopher Eccleston's Doctor. Christopher Eccleston said in interviews, when asked about the Doctor being romantic, the Doctor has two hearts, and they can both be broken. And we get a bit of that in the scene where Jabe tells him that she knows who he is. Eccleston cries a single tear, and they move on. It's so powerful, especially because then once they get into the air recycling facility with the giant fans, the Doctor goes back to being jokey. And I love how the giant fans are lampshaded. You know, this is part of the retro. This doesn't need to be here. It's here purely for affectation, purely for aesthetic. We are dealing with a modern day audience, and even 15 years ago, you know, where people are already making fun of horror films for people walking up the stairs when they should be running out of the house. You know, this is 10 years after Scream pointed that out. This is coming off the back of Buffy, as I mentioned before, which very often in a postmodern way poked fun at the tropes of the fantasy genre. So Doctor Who has to do the same thing. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. You don't have to do that if you don't include the giant fans. But by including the giant fans, that gives you a chance to lampshade it, as that device is known, when you have the character say, we know this is something ridiculous. What's this doing here? Why is it here? Now, despite the fact that we only have 45 minutes to build up a whodunit, give character work to the Doctor and Rose, and develop the characters of Cassandra and Jabe, there is still thematic work going on in this episode. The theme here is that despite 5 billion years of evolution, we still have the same problems and the same foibles and the same vanities in the future as humanity. Not only that, but humanity has taken their best qualities to the stars and their worst qualities as well. Cassandra says that humanity has touched every part of the universe. And indeed, Jabe and the trees of Cheam come from the Earth. It's a fascinating idea. We have all these strange-looking aliens, but most of them are still the bipedal humanoid form, just with different heads. I particularly love the Wicker people. You've got the Mox of Balhoun, you've got the Hop Pylines, you've got Mr. and Mrs. Paku, who are sort of the bird style of creatures, but all of these people have a human notion of commerce and shares and companies. Now, it's not explicitly stated that that has come from humanity, but that is poignant even now. We are, of course, in the grip of the coronavirus pandemic. It is affecting companies, it is affecting businesses large and small. Huge airlines say they're running out of money and are asking governments to bail them out. Governments are having to pay companies and people in order to keep on living. 15 years, and it still all comes down to money. Cassandra is an example of taking our world's obsession with youth and beauty to a ridiculous extreme that is reflected in her desire to be flat, to remove all her organs, to bleach her blood, but still say, I'm the last human, I'm the last human. But Rose says you've had your humanity removed. Now, she's not just talking on the physical level, she's talking about the psychology that goes into that kind of physical modification. To remove your human body, your human form, so you're just a face and skin. Rose is perfectly fine with the notion that humans have gone out into the universe and bred with other species, and there are different groups of humans and different types of humans all over the place. But Cassandra's classism and racism disgusts her. She does attack Cassandra on a physical level, because that is what Cassandra is most proud of. Cassandra is most proud of her physical form, and she believes it gives her that superiority, so that is what Rose attacks. Cassandra looks down on the Doctor and Rose because they don't have her power, they don't have her prestige, and they don't have her money. Right from when the Doctor and Rose arrive, they're challenged by the steward. They can't be in here because the important people are about to arrive, and they can't be the important people, and the steward is shocked when they appear to have an invitation. There's an element of the Emperor's new clothes here when people are exchanging gifts. The Doctor hasn't brought anything, so he gives air from his lungs, and different people react to that brilliantly. And Jabe, of course, being a tree, trees thrive on carbon dioxide, as exposed from the human lungs, finds that very intimate. And it's just nothing, you know, it's what the Doctor has. He has his method of transport, he has his wits. In this case, he has the psychic paper and the sonic screwdriver. At several points, the sonic screwdriver can't fix anything in this story. So he gives the air from his lungs. Cassandra's only interest in the other guests is their money, it is their wealth. She's bought shares in their companies, so when they die, money will come flowing her way. There is no reason to target these people beyond that money, but Cassandra can justify it by the fact that, as far as she's concerned, they're not people, they're not human. So her classism and her racism come together hand in hand, and that is what the Doctor sets out to defeat when he recalls Cassandra. And much like Rose earlier on using what Cassandra is proud of against her, so does the Doctor. He lets her dry out. He doesn't save her. And there's a look from Rose at the end of that where, you know, she's not sure about that course of action. Russell T Davies is introducing to us the idea that the Doctor doesn't necessarily do what is nice, but does what he thinks is right. Here the Doctor is driven by his anger at Jabe's death, and there's a wonderful non-verbal moment where Christopher Eccleston walks back into the room, and before comforting Rose, the first thing he does is tell Jabe's friends, Lute and Coffer, that Jabe is dead. And it's done off mic, we don't hear what is said, it's entirely done with the physicality of Christopher Eccleston and the two Trees of Cheam actors. It's just a nice little character moment, and then his rage comes out and he recalls Cassandra, and he does so in such a way that you don't think he's figuring it out here. He figured it out a while ago, but he was so busy trying to save the station from the expanding sun that is what took priority. Jabe's death is horrible, and it continues a theme of the sacrifice of characters who get involved with the Doctor. We had it with Clive last week, we have it with Jabe this week, and she won't be the last character this series. It's something that came in for criticism for at the time, and I think I'll be discussing it later on in the series. Billie Piper really excels in the last few minutes as she's looking out the window of Platform 1 and realises that no one really saw the Earth go. They were too busy being in danger, trying to save themselves. And so the Doctor takes her back to her own time. The Doctor talks about the destruction of planets, the death of entire civilizations, and it gives Rose pause to wonder if she really wants to do this. And then she's immediately grounded back in her own world by the smell of chips. That simple thing that brings us back down to Earth and reminds us, the viewer, that this is a show about humanity. This is a show about exploring that humanity like all the best science fiction is. And you can have a traumatic experience, you can have a dramatic experience, you can have a very trying experience, but what matters is what makes us human. The End of the World is a 9 out of 10 for me. It is damn near perfect. The only thing that lets it down a bit is its simplicity, but we have to have that simplicity. It's such a confident step for the series. It is a big statement piece. You know, we brought you big spectacle last week in the present day, we can do it in the future as well. So, viewer mailbag time. Matt Muir, and look, I did ask how to pronounce it, so I'm going to try out different pronunciations until I get it right. Matt Muir says, "The end of the world, ambitious as all hell, but still a lot of fun. Every character is very RTD. My only issue is that the only explicit trans rep in Doctor Who isn't a Time Lord is a bitchy trampoline villain character." Big Finish are introducing a trans companion played by a trans actress, Rebecca Root. I think you're right, it would be good to have a trans character played by a trans actor or actress who is just a character living their life. Blaine Coughlin writes, "The end of the world. The Tree People are a phenomenal piece of work, with Jabe being particularly stunning, as you really can't see any joins between the skin and the prosthetic, even in large close-up. I love the way she flirts with the Doctor, calling his breath intimate." Yep, we are introduced to the idea of the Doctor being a sensual being here. We had a bit of it last week with Jackie, but the Doctor kind of turned that down, but he still knew what she was talking about. We did have a bit of it in the telly movie as well. It wasn't terribly well received there, and I think the romance of Doctor Who in the new series is generally better handled than in the telly movie, where it felt a bit bolted on. But there are examples coming up where it's not, but not so much this year. Amy Pond. Stephen Alexander writes, "The end of the world. Bugs the hell out of me that Rose phones her mum in this, and later her mum says, 'You never even called.' Aside from that, great fun, introduces the new occasional companion, and we have the Temple of Peace." Now, the occasional companion is, of course, Jabe, and something new series does quite a bit is it introduces another character outside the companions to be a temporary companion for a while. Stephen has also referenced the Temple of Peace here, and the Temple of Peace is a location in Wales that's used for the Platform 1 reception room, and it's also used for a bunch of other shots along the way as well, such as the Silurian Hall, the Bridge of Porridge's spaceship in Nightmare in Silver. It comes up again and again and again because it's just a beautiful, beautiful building. Paul Monk has then commented underneath, "Didn't Russell have some timey-wimey explanation for that? The phone call." The explanation is there in the episode. When Rose calls Jackie, Jackie asks Rose to put a quid in the lottery syndicate. Rose is calling Jackie on the day where Rose meets the Doctor. It is on the day where Rose is working at Hendrix, takes the lottery money down to Wilson in the basement, and then has to escape and Hendrix blows up. Very Pete Lambert writes, "End of the world. Bit nervous now. We've spent decades being derided for liking a show about the Ming Mongs of the planet Zog, and out comes the Mox holding my beer. But it's still very funny, and Britney. Of course, Britney Spears in this is referenced as being classical music, which is wonderful, as is Tainted Love by Soft Cell, and I love that song, Tainted Love, over Rose's reactions to the various aliens. It's really, really well done there. In terms of the Mox, I see what you're saying there, Pete, but they also mostly have humanoid forms. Even the face of Bo, it's a humanoid-style face. It's eyes, a nose, and a mouth, even if he doesn't have a body to go with it. So I kind of get what Russell T Davies was saying there, but again, he has to anchor it in humanity. He anchors it in Rose's reactions, and I think that's why it works, especially when the Mox spits on her, and she's just appalled by that, but the Doctor thinks it's wonderful. So we get a little taste of strange alien cultures, along with very human recognisable things. Johnny Morris writes, "Love the end of the world, but wish it had maintained the Rose POV and not had her knocked out and locked up." Had to make sure I got those in the right order. You know what, I do see your point there, Johnny, because we've had the Rose POV throughout Rose, and she's still our point of reference character, especially with every other character in this, aside from Rose, Cassandra, and a brief appearance by Jackie. Every other character is an alien, so we do need that human vantage point. It is a bit unfortunate that in Rose's first trip into space, she's knocked out and put in a room as a peril monkey while the rest of the plot happens outside. From the Jixter, suddenly there's a whole bunch of new aliens. I like the developing relationship between Rose and the Doctor, realising she doesn't know anything about him. Cassandra's a fun villain, it's all a bit Scooby-Doo, but we get more about the Time Lord's fate. You know what, Scooby-Doo is exactly right. There's an unmasking at the end. Russell T Davies, again, using storytelling tropes there that the audience would recognise in order to get them into the story. And I love the procession of aliens coming in. I love the Wicker aliens. I love the bird aliens. I love the Mox of Balhoon. Now, you will see behind me, I do have my action figures here. I don't have a huge new series collection. I used to, but I actually got rid of a lot of them because it was more about the classic series figures for me, but I don't have a Mox of Balhoon anymore. And finally, from Gumblejack, End of the World. Davies has a Douglas Adams level talent for mixing the weird and the familiar and for sketching out worlds in tiny lines. The conversation with Ruffalo is one of my favourites in all Who. I stayed in London 6 months longer to watch this season and was so happy I did. You know what? I think that's a very good, very good trade-off. I mean, London's fantastic to live in anyway, but, you know, staying there to watch this new series of Doctor Who as it goes out and not having to wait 3 bloody months for the ABC to show it, I'm still not over it. Can you tell? That moment, that scene with Ruffalo, it's a filler scene. The episode was literally running under. They recalled Billie Piper, they got in a new actress to play Ruffalo, they used a bit of corridor, a ventilation duct, and you wouldn't know. It's that good, and I suppose that's the quality of Russell's writing. He can write himself in and out of scenes and rearrange stuff, but keep it relevant to the story. Now, in about 2 days, I'm going to be recording my Unquiet Dead and Aliens of London videos, so you are not too late to comment and give me your thoughts on those episodes as well. Until I see you next week, do take care of yourselves, thank you very much for watching, and make sure you wash your hands. And look out for spiders.